Hi guys, welcome back. Thank you for watching. Please do hit subscribe if you haven't done so yet. That would be fantastic. Welcome back to part 2 of Ditch the Fix. It amazed me that you guys actually watched part 1, but you did, so thank you. And I hope this carries on being interesting for you. Today guys, I wanted to talk a little bit about the things I try to bear in mind when it comes to writing a piece of music, and also about setting up your project in Pro Tools or Cubase or Logic ready to record and ready to demo, because ultimately the demo will be what you use to record over the top of to create your final song. So making sure it's set up properly in the first place is very, very important. But first and foremost, let's talk a little bit about songwriting. So the first thing for me that I always try to keep in mind when working on any piece of music, and this is a slightly contentious point, I know, for me, music has to be fun. Music has to have a sense of humour about itself. I've tried to write serious music in the past. I can't do it. It doesn't work for me. It seems to me that nowadays the music industry is very serious. You have to be a serious artist. You have to write serious music in order to have any chance of success. Now, we're recording this piece of music today in the kind of the style of the 60s and the 70s. No edits, raw guitar sounds, and all of that. And back then, we had bands such as Chaz and Dave and my local West Country heroes, the Wurzels. They wrote comic songs. It was true to who they were, but it was comedy, and it was okay to be funny. It was okay to have a sense of humour in music, and they sold records. I mean, they were fantastic musicians as well. I mean, Chaz Hodges, who sadly died recently, I mean, he used to play bass guitar for Jerry Lee Lewis and people. He's a fantastic musician, and yet he was writing comedy music, but it was good and it sold, and it was okay to have a sense of humour. So for me, that's something I always try to put in my music. I want you guys to listen to the final song that we record here, and I want you to smile. I don't want it to be comedy as such, but I want it to have character, and I want it to have a sense of humour, and I want it to be over the top to the point of being a little bit tongue-in-cheek. That's what works for me. So that is always my number one objective, is I want to make music that makes people smile. Number 2, why am I writing this song? Now, of course, this varies, massively in terms of what project you might be working on, but for this song in particular, the main objective is for you guys. I want to demonstrate to you how I record guitar tones, and I also want to try and prove that not editing things and having the sounds that come out of the amplifiers be the same sounds that ultimately come out of your speakers. I want, that's okay. You can do that. You don't have to change everything and fix it in the mix. You can just record raw and have it sound good. So that's obviously my main objective. For me, I love fuzz pedals, and fuzz pedals were some of the earliest effects pedals, and I want fuzz pedals to be the real basis of this song. But I also want to include one pedal in particular as the main pedal in the song, and that is this pedal here. Now, this is a replica, but it's essentially as close as you can buy nowadays to an original Mark I tone bender. This is made by Nick Williams, just down the road from me in England. If you haven't checked out Nick's pedals, do so immediately, because they are awesome. But the Mark I tone bender is kind of where it all started, but it does get overlooked a little bit because of this pedal here. And this is another of Nick's pedals. This is a replica of a Mark II tone bender, and this is the one that gets all the attention. This is the one people want, because the Mark II tone bender was the Jimmy Page fuzz. Jimmy used a Mark II on Led Zepp 1 and lots of other things, so this is the one that everybody seems to want and seems to be most sought after. But the Mark I is fantastic, so I want to kind of share the Mark I love in this song. So I'm going to make the lead guitar completely Mark I tone bender. It has a slightly more pronounced mid-range than the Mark II, it's less scoopy, but that just makes it more suited to a kind of biting lead guitar tone. And it's also a lot more unpredictable than most fuzz pedals. It loves to feedback, it loves to glitch and be a bit, unwieldy. But that's great. I want this song to be a bit edgy. So this is going to be the main pedal on the song. So that is my main objective. I want to show you guys that it's okay not to edit, and also I want to have a lot of different fuzz pedals in there, especially this one. Number 3, have a vision. Now this, it's not meant to be overly philosophical. This is, what do you want your ultimate goal to be with this song? What do you want? How long do you want the song to be? What style do you want it in? So for me, I want to make it kind of blues rock. I want it to have a lot of lead guitar in it, but some really fat rhythm guitar fuzz tones. I want it to be not overly long, 3 minutes, 3 minutes 15, something like that, kind of radio length. But in that time, I also want to have a lot of different sections to show you guys lots of different guitar tones, because again, that's the main point of this song, is to show you guys recorded guitar tones. So as I said, it's going to be based in fuzz, but I want to have a clean section. I want to have a lot of modulation pedals. I want to try some strange things with mixing the drums. I want to have a nice fat bass sound. All of those sort of things. I like big production. I like kind of stadium rock drums and fat bass guitars and walls of guitars, and that's what I want this song to be. I want it to be short, but I want it to be full on. I want it to have a lot of different sections and say a lot in not a long period of time. So, I mean, that's quite a challenge, but I'm up for it. So that is the kind of basis of what I'm going to be trying to record for you guys in this video series. Number 4, embrace your quirks and be true to yourself. Now, this kind of goes back to what I was saying about music having to have character and, for me, a sense of humour. I cannot do serious music. Some people can, good luck to them. But for me, I can't. And I write instrumental guitar music. Nobody listens to instrumental guitar music, hopefully you guys will. But in terms of the wider music industry, you're never going to make it as an instrumental guitarist, especially one who doesn't compare in technical ability to Satriani and Vai and Paul Gilbert and all those guys. You know, I write melodic instrumental guitar music. That doesn't sell. But so what? I would rather write music that is true to me, that doesn't sell, than pretend to be somebody or something I'm not, purely to try and make it. And it's something that it really makes me sad when you see really quirky, unique, full of character singer-songwriters, and they have amazing songs and amazing lyrics, and they are constantly trying to reinvent themselves in order to kind of chase the trends that are happening in the music industry. It really does upset me when you see like an amazing singer-songwriter who thinks, okay, what's in the charts at the moment, I don't know, One Direction is selling massively, so I'm going to go away and write a One Direction style album because people will love that. And they go away and do it and come back, and in a year's time, everyone's moved on to the next big thing, and they're left with an album in a saturated market that isn't as good as the thing they set out to try and copy in the first place. No one buys it, so they have to go back to the drawing board. So they look at the charts again and reinvent themselves again, and they know what they want to be ultimately, but they won't let themselves do it because, you know, they think it won't sell. If you're an artist and you want to make music for you and you want to be creative, I think it's really important to have your own style and stick with it. I'm not saying don't develop that style. I'm not saying you're not allowed to change or anything like that. But know who you are. Be true to yourself. Embrace your quirks. As I said, I like big stadium rock productions and I write instrumental guitar music. So that's what I do. I don't pretend to be anything else. And even if I hadn't told you that, in this video series, if I tried to put out something that was super serious and mellow and jazz, you guys would know I was being dishonest. Even if I hadn't told you that, you'd just be able to tell. So having authenticity and having that honesty about who you are, what you want to do, and just putting it on the table and going, this is me. This is who I am as a musician. If you don't like it, that's okay. But if you do like it, brilliant. So that's what I want to do as well. I always try to have my personality in the music. I've got quite a jokey personality, so that's how the songs end up being. As I said, if that's to my detriment in terms of long-term success, then so be it. But that's all I'm able to do, and that's all I am willing to do. And finally, in terms of the songwriting thing, as I said in episode 1, for me, the performance aspect of vintage music is the most important thing when it comes to having character in your playing and having an atmosphere and a vibe about your recording. Now, a big part of that was having a room full of musicians all playing together, because that's how records used to be made. But I'm working remotely with session musicians on this song, so you can't do that. So I was thinking about ways to try and make it a little bit more quirky and unique. And this is an idea I nicked off Mike Oldfield, and he certainly is not his idea. I mean, he just happened to do it on his last album. This here is a mechanical metronome. This one dates from the late 1800s, so it's very old, it's very cranky, it's a little bit unpredictable. But what I've done is I've recorded 4 minutes of that metronome into Pro Tools, and that is what I'm going to be recording this entire song to. I have mapped out a tempo map to the metronome in case Emily wants to have a traditional beep, bop, bop, bop click track for playing her drums to, but that also shows me the tempo that this thing is playing at, and it does fluctuate. It goes in and out by about 3, 4, 5 BPM here and there. It moves, but I like that. It's a step away from a digital metronome for me. I like having something that's a little bit more quirky. So the timekeeping of this entire song is going to be done by the 1800s. But that's cool. So that's another thing that I wanted to get in here. So everything you hear in this entire video series is going to be keeping in time with that cranky old metronome. So moving on to setting up your Pro Tools session, or your Cubase or Logic or whatever DAW you use. When it comes to demoing your song, the way it usually works, and by far the easiest way of working, is to set up your session, demo your songs, and then slowly go through and record over them. So you've got guide guitar tracks there and guide bass tracks, and you slowly replace them with the proper recordings. But that does mean you have to set your project up properly in the first place before starting to demo. And the two things, there's not much you need to do in terms of that, but the two things you need to decide on first and foremost is bit depth and bit rate. How are you going to record? What quality are you recording at? So ultimately, CD is still a kind of, the norm medium for releasing music. MP3 quality is absolutely atrocious, so we don't even need to think about that. But in terms of CD, CD is 16-bit, 44.1K bit rate. Now, when we record, we can record at 1644, and that's fine. I like to record at a higher bit rate, primarily because I think it all works a lot better, and it's good to have your music at the highest quality possible, or realistic, as you can, for as long as possible before you reduce it down. But, that's just my philosophy. So what I do is I record at 24-bit, which is fairly standard, and I record at 96K. My last two albums I've done at 88.2, which, is mathematically more pleasing when it comes to dithering down to 44.1 ultimately. But 96, seeing as I'm going to be using a fair bit of outboard gear when it comes to mixing this song, I want to have the bit rate as high as is sensible. You can go up to 192, and even the best engineers in the world with the best trained ears and the highest quality monitoring systems, the jury's still out among them as to whether 192 is actually making a big difference. Some people say it definitely is, other people, like really top engineers, say it makes no difference at all, nothing you can hear at least. So I've tried all of it. The only way to really know what works for you is to try it on your setup. I've tried recording at all different bit rates and bit depths. For me, 24-bit is as low as I would go. You can record at 32-bit float, but most interfaces record at 24-bit anyway. So aside from having larger file sizes, you're not really achieving anything by tracking in 32-bit. Sorry, I mix in 32-bit, more on that later. But for tracking, at least, 24-bit is kind of as high as it's realistic to go. And at sample rate for me, I tried 192. I couldn't tell a difference over 96. I can tell a difference from going from 44.1 to 96, so that's what I do. It's the highest bit rate that it's sensible for me to be using. So this project, and this is just my opinion, it might be different for you. You might love 44.1, some people do. Some people say it's a bit more grainy than 24-bit 96. But for me, I'm going to be recording at 24-bit 96K. So that is what I've set my demo session up as, because that's what I'm ultimately going to carry on doing. So there we are, guys. Thank you for watching. I hope that cleared up a few things about what I'm setting out to achieve with this entire project here. In the next episode, we're going to be tracking drums with Emily Dolan Davies. She's a fantastic drummer. We've worked together before on my Christmas song. She really is brilliant, and she has a lot of feel in her playing, which is why I love going back to record drums with her. So you've got that to look forward to in episode 3. And as I said in the first part of this series, please do carry on commenting underneath these videos or emailing me with any questions you might have. And I'm going to have a parallel video series going along with this called Ask Perky, where if I can make a video answering your question about anything to do with what I'm doing here, or my channel in general, or life, then I absolutely will do. So please do carry on writing in with your questions, and I really want you guys to engage with this video series as much as you possibly can, because that is what I want to drive it. So thank you guys, I will see you in part 3, and yeah, goodbye.